This is Tom and Paula Graves from Light of Christ Radio with a chapter from our series called The Greatest Story.
You're welcome to watch this video simply for the story, or you can use it as the basis of a small group study.
Instructions for the small group study can be found in the Show More section below this video.
Today we continue our series called The Greatest Story, and we continue our chapter called Follow as we look at the story of Peter and his denial of Jesus. We use details from all four Gospels to tell this story.
Well, Paula, to set the context of our story, Peter had followed Jesus for 3 years and knew that Jesus was the Messiah sent by God.
And even though Jesus had predicted his death, his disciples, including Peter, didn't understand what Jesus was going to do.
Peter, the other disciples, and Jesus were in Jerusalem for the Passover season. They had just celebrated the Passover meal and what we know today as the Last Supper.
And Jesus had used this tradition to point to the new covenant that he would be ushering in. And he also told his followers that one of them would betray him.
So our story today begins at the end of this meal.
Which brings us to a story from the Word of God.
Jesus turned to Peter and said, "Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift each of you like wheat. But I have pleaded in prayer for you, Simon, that your faith should not fail. So when you have repented and turned to me again, strengthen your brothers."
And then they sang a hymn and went out to the Mount of Olives. And on the way, Jesus told them,
"All of you will desert me, for the scriptures say, God will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered. But after I'm raised from the dead, I will go ahead of you to Galilee and meet you there."
And Peter said to him, "Even if everyone else deserts you, I never will."
And Jesus replied, "I tell you the truth, Peter, this very night, before the rooster crows twice, you will deny 3 times that you even know me."
"No," Peter declared emphatically, "even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you." And all the others vowed the same. And at the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus began to earnestly pray for the Father's will to be done. He had asked the disciples to pray with him, but they were sleepy.
Then Jesus returned and found the disciples asleep. He said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Couldn't you keep watch with me even 1 hour? Keep watch and pray so that you will not give in to temptation. For the spirit is willing, but the body is weak."
And after Jesus had prayed 3 times, Judas and a contingent of soldiers sent by the Jewish leadership came. Judas betrayed Jesus with a kiss.
Then Simon Peter drew a sword and slashed off the right ear of Malchus, the high priest's slave. But Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword back into its sheath. Shall I not drink from the cup of suffering the Father has given me?" Jesus said no more of this, and he touched the man's ear and healed him.
So they arrested Jesus and led him to the high priest's home, and Peter followed at a distance. The guards lit a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat around it, and Peter joined them there.
One of the servant girls who worked for the high priest came by and noticed Peter warming himself at the fire. She looked at him closely and said, "You were one of those with Jesus of Nazareth."
But Peter denied it. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, and he went out into the entryway. Just then, a rooster crowed.
Later, out by the gate, another servant girl noticed him and said to those standing around, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth."
Again, Peter denied it, this time with an oath. "I don't even know the man," he said.
A little later, some other bystanders came over to Peter and said, "You must be one of them. We can tell by your Galilean accent." But one of the household slaves of the high priest, a relative of the man whose Peter had cut off, asked, "Didn't I see you there in the olive grove with Jesus?"
But Peter said, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." And immediately, while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed.
At that moment, the Lord turned and looked at Peter. Suddenly, the Lord's words flashed through Peter's mind. "Before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will deny 3 times that you even know me."
And Peter left the courtyard, weeping bitterly. This is a story from the Word of God.
If you're using this video for small group application, after you've watched this video, try retelling the story from what you have heard.
Then read the text. Discussion questions are below in the Show More section.
We hope this will help you on your journey of life.
Be blessed.